Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll tell you how livestock and sporting groups are coming together for a historic conservation partnership. Plus, see how John Deere equipment can take your operation's haymaking to the next level.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxter, coming to you today from Drennan Feedlots in Palmer, Nebraska. Last month, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, along with the Public Lands Council, signed a memorandum of understanding with Ducks Unlimited and Safari Club International that outlined the group's shared commitment to conservation of natural resources through sustainable multiple use. Hunting, fishing, and livestock grazing are all key components of successful, comprehensive management plans for our nation's public lands and resources. The MOU outlines these groups' efforts to cultivate healthier ecosystems, wildlife populations, and economies through active management. Caitlin Glover, Executive Director of the Public Lands Council and the National Cattlemen's Beef Association Natural Resources, has more on this historic conservation partnership in this week's Beltway Beef Spotlight.
So last month, we were in Florida as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the Public Lands Council, Safari Club International, and Ducks Unlimited signed an historic document, a memorandum of understanding that showcases our shared partnership for ecosystems, for wildlife, and for grazing's role in creating a healthy future for both of those. From the NCBA and PLC side, it's a great opportunity for us to talk about the value of grazing, the fine fuels management, and all of the nimble tools that grazers and livestock producers provide when you're talking about what an evolving ecosystem needs through time. Having partners like Ducks Unlimited and Safari Club International be able to talk about the value of grazing, both here in Washington and across the country as we partner on future projects, is a great value. It is a little bit of a disparate group, not for groups that you may not normally see together, either on a piece of paper or on a project. But when you have these kind of groups come together with a common message and a shared principle, you're able to leverage both dollars on the ground and support for projects, but also support for policy proposals here in Washington. These truly are ground-up benefits that you're going to be able to see over time. MOUs are not necessarily uncommon, but this agreement is particularly notable because this is one of the first times we've seen these four groups come together to support a very specific principle, and that is active management of habitats, of ecosystems through the tools that each of our groups provide. It's an exciting moment. It was an exciting moment to be there in Florida. And it's an exciting new sort of launch pad, a new foundation as we move into the future. That's something we talked about at the Public Lands Council annual meeting last week when we joined each other virtually to talk about some of these ongoing partnerships. But also as we look to the end of the year, the last few months of 2020 and certainly 21 will bring its own challenges. But having friends both on the ground and in Washington will benefit all of us. Never has that been more true when we're looking at ecosystem management for hurricanes and wildfires. So leveraging these partnerships and these investments will be better for producers on the ground and for the hunters and anglers who are in their backyards as their neighbors or their own households.
Now, if you're looking for a great way to stay up to date on all the key issues and events from Washington, D.C., one way is by becoming a member of NCBA. You'll get the Beltway Beef newsletter, a weekly update straight from Washington that provides valuable insights on the key policy initiatives that may impact your business. To join, just call 1-866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll tell you about one of the ways NCBA and the Beef Checkoff are working together to address myths about beef production and nutrition. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
They're here, they're hungry, and they can't be stopped with ivermectin alone. Add Safeguard when you deworm your cattle to take out resistant parasites like brown stomach worm, Cooperia, Nematodiarus, and others. With 2 dewormers from 2 different classes, you can kill more resistant worms in your cattle, so you don't leave potential on the table. Consult your veterinarian for the diagnosis and treatment of parasitism. Then bite back at safeguardworks.com.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
In the latest effort to address myths about beef production and nutrition, Beef It's What's for Dinner, managed by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. In the latest effort to address myths about beef production and nutrition, Beef It's What's for Dinner, managed by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, a contractor to the Beef Checkoff, has created a video series called Real Facts About Real Beef. These short videos highlight real farmers and ranchers and other beef experts addressing some of the most common misconceptions and questions about cattle and beef. Let's take a look.
LOL, I would love, instead of letting cattle graze all over, we could be using that land to grow crops for humans. LOL, I would love to see you try to grow some crops on this ground here. In reality, a lot of the land where we graze cattle is marginal land that is not suitable for crop production.
Find out more at beefitswhatsfordinner.com.
All right,
So how did these videos come about and what's been the reaction? Russell Nemitz joins us with a closer look.
Really do deliver. All right, thanks a lot, Kevin. You know, in a time when consumers are more removed from food production than ever before, these videos really do deliver facts directly from the source, and that's our farmers and ranchers and other beef experts. With that said, joining us now to talk more about that process is Buck Werbine, the chair of NCBA's Federation Division. And Buck, first thing out of the chute, let's go ahead and explain for folks at home why this video series is so important to beef producers like you.
Well, the video series, Real Facts About Real Beef, debunks common beef myths from experts like Dr. Frank Mitlerner, the climatologist from Cal Davis, University of Cal Davis, who debunks the idea that cattle are a big source of greenhouse gas. And if you haven't heard him, man, he's just the greatest spokesman because he's got it all down. And he really, it's not like he's not just an apologist for the beef industry. He explains what cattle do contribute and how they don't contribute. So it's really interesting. Everybody ought to hear it. And, you know, if you check out our Beef Is What's for Dinner on YouTube, you'll see that there's a bunch of these little videos, and they're short and they're pithy and 15 to 30 seconds. And I think a lot of people are like I was. They believed in the checkoff. They supported it, didn't pay any attention to it, didn't know much. And these videos are a quick and easy way to see something that the checkoff is doing for them that's real. And it's not just the videos. We got social media going out, you know, that reaches so many people and debunking myths and even placing editorials into major publications. There was a New York Times op-ed about cattle and greenhouse, and Dr. Mitlerner had an op-ed to debunk that, and of course they wouldn't run it. And finally, the team found a spot in a San Francisco paper, interestingly enough, to get it out there in a big newspaper. So we're educating the consumer and also influencers, bloggers and chefs and so forth. So it's good to clear up those things and make people, you know, make sure they're comfortable buying our product.
Well said. Now, were there a couple of specific topics or even myths, if you will, that were top of the list to get debunked?
Well, I mentioned the greenhouse gas. That's a big one that people are concerned about because it gets used by the anti-beef people so much. And then also the idea that all the corn that gets fed to cattle, to livestock, could be eaten by humans. And so, understanding all the land that we use that wouldn't grow crops that can be eaten by humans is helpful for people to understand too. It's about our consumers. We know our consumers want to eat our product. It's about them feeling comfortable and confident in doing it, that they're not harming the environment, which of course they're not.
Hey, Buck, what kind of reaction have you heard from these videos so far?
Well, one of the cool things that Chekhov-funded research does is gives a real good idea of how our consumers and our customers are responding to things like this. Old guys like me, I get what social media is. I just don't understand how it works, and I'm not very good at it. But through that, we can find out through, people looking at our information and so forth, that it's reaching a lot of people. And I think that that research is showing that there's a lot of confidence and people are feeling positive about beef and beef production. And of course, it's not just the experts, it's producers also that are on there. And I think it always helps to, you may not be able to touch them and poke them because you're seeing a video, but you can see people that are actually out there doing, and that always helps to put a face with what you're looking at. And so I think the very positive feelings, and that has really served us well in this COVID time with lockdowns and all that, where people were not able to go out to eat and we're having to cook at home. And so all the information we've got, recipes and all that, really did well, served us well, and the beef producer well. And so people were able to get those recipes and once again have a positive feeling about beef.
Let's go ahead now and remind folks at home that you actually serve as the chair of the Federation of State Beef Councils. Could you explain for us what the purpose of the Federation is?
Yeah, you bet. This has been an honor for me to be vice chair last year and chair this year. And the Federation, of course, is the Federation of State Beef Councils. There's 46, 7, whatever it is, active state beef councils in the United States. They all collect a checkoff, and then, of course, 50 cents of every dollar goes to the Cattlemen's Beef Board, and then the other 50 cents stays at the state. And so the Federation is all those states joining together, and they all pay some money in to help support it. And the bigger cattle states, like in the center of the country, usually give part of their budget besides what they have to pay to be part of the Federation to support it. And the Federation then is able to enhance the work that any state beef council could not do by itself. But when you join forces, then you can really amplify that effort and reach a lot of people. One of our ideas is put the money where the people are. Well, Nebraska's got 4.5 times as many cattle as people. So, we don't spend a lot of money here, but we send money to states like New York and California and Florida, where the people are. And so the Federation is a good way to help us really join forces and get a lot done. Another thing that they do is issues management. So we've got a team that are watching the issues and on social media. So when they see something come up that catches their eye, they can monitor that, and that gives us an idea if it's something that this is real and we need to respond to it, or this is very small, people really aren't paying attention, maybe somebody's trying to make a deal, something out of nothing, and we know when to respond and when not to. And so the message can go out to all of our producers, so whatever method that they may have, that they can put out the information and get the story set straight. So that's really good. We've got a lot of beef's good positive image that benefit the states, and we've got nutrition and dietitians and whatnot that we influence through this, and we got a lot of tremendous support from the nutrition influence community.
Well, Buck, before we let you go, give us another example of how the Federation and State Beef Council work to reach consumers and grow demand for beef.
A really good example would be the early development webinar that they're even looking at what beef can do for a small child in the first 6 months of life. So that's something that can change habits and influence people, for their entire life. And so that'd be a really good example of it. That's a great resource provided by the Federation.
All right, Buck, as always, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule there in Nebraska to talk about this very important topic.
Pleasure's mine.
What's for dinner? Want to learn about some of the other great ways that checkoff dollars are being used to increase beef demand? Then visit the Beef It's What's for Dinner website. You'll also find things like recipes, information on beef cuts, and nutritional information at this one-stop shop for all things beef. Up next on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, see how John Deere equipment is helping an Ohio farmer put up hay more efficiently. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
Stressors that trigger bovine respiratory disease are all around. So when you spot BRD in your herd, turn to Zuprevo, the fast that lasts. Zuprevo is rapidly absorbed in as little as 45 minutes and lasts up to 28 days. Because in the race against BRD, you need to win. Ready, set, Zuprevo. In case of human injection, seek immediate medical advice for use in beef and non-lactating dairy cattle only. For prescribing information, talk to your veterinarian or visit Zuprevo.com.
To meet the forage needs of their animals. However, in the eastern portion of the U.S., rain and other weather challenges create a very tight window for getting a quality hay crop cut and baled. Brian Baxter, when grass is not growing, cattle producers most often rely on hay to meet the forage needs of their animals. However, in the eastern portion of the U.S., rain and other weather challenges create a very tight window for getting a quality hay crop cut and baled. Brian Baxter brings us the story of an Ohio cattle producer who has continued to upgrade his haying equipment to make his operation more efficient.
This is the fifth generation.
On a late summer morning in north central Ohio, Kelvin Egner and his daughter are out early looking over the heifers that are a key part of the future for their family's purebred Angus operation.
Egner Farms Angus, we're a fifth generation operation. My grandkids is the fifth generation to be on the farm. It's a family operation. It's my daughter, son-in-law, wife, and the grandkids. One of the things we try to do here is raise quality bulls. We've done that by paying attention to the end product. We raise freezer beef here and sell freezer beef, and so our bulls have to meet a quality aspect for the end consumer. And so when our bull customers buy bulls from us, they're assured that they're going to get quality products. And with our freezer beef business, we have to have that. Quality is number one.
When they're not checking on cattle or filling freezer beef orders, you'll likely find the Egner family is getting machinery ready to roll on the crop side of their operation.
Here we do a lot of double cropping. We put our corn silage in, take our corn silage off in the fall, and then we come back with triticale in the fall after that, and then take that off in the spring, and then we'll plant a teff or a Sudan grass after that. So in a matter of 2 years, we get 3 crops. Hay in our operations is a critical. That gets us through the wintertime. Our cattle don't spend all winter on pastures because the soil gets wet up here. It don't allow the cattle to be out all winter long. So that's the reason the hay crop is really critical to us, so we can get through that next winter. Our hay season here starts in the end of May and runs all the way through to October. We're constantly baling hay, whether it be silage or grass or alfalfa, straw, bean stalks, corn stalks, we bale everything.
The afternoon turned warm and the humidity dropped. That meant the round bales Kelvin put up were plenty dry. But in this part of the country, that's not typical.
Some of the challenges that we have is just getting some of the crop dry. In Ohio, high humidities, a lot of dew in the mornings in the fall. It's just rain. So we struggle on some years to get that crop dry enough. When we're going out to bale, we got to get that crop in. And we really can't afford breakdowns. We really can't afford to run slow. So when we're doing it, we really look at equipment that can get the job done and get it done in a hurry. And so that's one reason that we use the John Deere baler, is because we have to get that done in a short period of time.
With his need for quality forage and the tight weather window he usually faces for putting hay up, Kelvin decided it was time to upgrade his round baler. So he turned to his local John Deere dealer, AgPro.
Well, the one thing we like about AgPro is they took the time to learn our operation, and as we do more and more business with them, they come to us with ideas for equipment or processes that they feel will help us in our operation.
Having that relationship with a producer like Calvin is important, because that way we can communicate and know exactly the needs of each other. So in talking with Calvin and his different hay that he does, this 450M baler really fits the different types of hay that he decides to make up to feed his livestock.
One reason that we got the John Deere baler is because of it handling all those crops. Some balers can't handle corn stalks, or not as good at corn stalks. Some of them are good at corn stalks, but our baler has to handle everything. We have to, since we're a variety of crops, I have to have a baler that does it all. So we bought our John Deere 450M last fall near the end of hay season. We were able to do our fall oats crop with it. Was really impressed how it handled the silage crop. And this year here we've been doing all of our hay crops with it, and just really impressed how well the machine handles.
Although he shopped around before he bought the 450M, Kelvin says AgPro's service, John Deere's reliability, and the features on the baler helped make his choice an easy one.
So our John Deere baler has a mega wide pickup. We really like that. That helps us get a nice even bale. When we're making corners, we got more room to make that corner with a wider pickup than some of the other balers have on them.
So what Calvin was looking for in a baler was a baler that could get hay up quickly. They're big on the pre-cutter. They really like to pre-cut their hay. So we matched the 450M to their operation for the speed of what we can put hay through the machine, and especially get it through the pre-cutter with the mega wide pickup.
So we like to pre-cutter because it cuts up the hay, and especially in some of the long stem hay that we raise, the cows will waste a lot of that, especially in a round bale feeder or even the bunks. They'll grab a mouthful, pull out a big string of hay, drop part of it on the ground. That's wasteful. We like that pre-cutter because it chops it up, makes it a mouthful. It's easier for the cows. It makes a big benefit to us. We figure we save up to about a third in some instances on hay.
Another factor in Kelvin's buying decision was the availability of a discount thanks to his membership in the National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
So the one thing is with NCBA is they partnered with John Deere to offer discounts to NCBA members. We really like that because it's an added benefit.
When Kelvin came and he told us that he was part of the NCBA and the Cattlemen Association, John Deere has a lot of affiliation programs, and so we were proud that he brought that to our attention so we could make sure that we could offer him the opportunities that come along with that affiliation. And for example, he could save hundreds of dollars on the different parts of his equipment that he wanted. In this case, he was looking for a round baler, so he did save significantly just because he was affiliated with the NCBA.
The discount was easy. All you have to do is you let your dealer know you're an NCBA member, and he'll take that NCBA membership discount right off the top.
Whether it's adding a new baler or developing more heifers as part of their Angus operation, Kelvin and his family enjoy working together, and they have an eye on making a way for another generation on the farm.
Hopefully they learn to appreciate the land and cattle and come back to the farm if they want to, and keep this going a couple more generations to go.
With the Egner family in Ohio, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about how hay equipment from John Deere can bring value to your farm or ranch, visit your local dealership or check out the website johndeere.com. And don't forget that John Deere offers NCBA members exclusive discounts on equipment. Go to ncba.org to learn more and to become a member.
Buyers.
Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, there's been a lot of uncertainty in the cattle markets. We'll try to get some answers about what to expect for the rest of the year from the experts at CattleFacts.
Ways to customize. We didn't just design the 6M tractors with you in mind. We designed them with you by our side. The new 6M tractors from John Deere, reimagined by you, for you. With improved visibility, better maneuverability, and more ways to customize, so you get everything you need and nothing you don't. Experience the new 6M at your local John Deere dealer.
And you're right, it has been an unprecedented year for the beef industry in a lot of different ways. Now, here to share some insights on what to expect for the rest of 2020 is Patrick Linnell with CattleFacts. And Patrick,
It's been a wild year for many reasons, and that includes the cattle markets. Russell Nemitz joins us once again with more on what we can expect for the rest of the year.
Unprecedented is
All right, thanks a lot, Kevin. And you're right, it has been an unprecedented year for the beef industry in a lot of different ways. Now, here to share some insights on what to expect for the rest of 2020 is Patrick Linnell with CattleFacts. And Patrick, we're right in the middle of the fall run. Can you please give us an update, if you will, on calf prices and any impacts you're seeing on this market?
Yeah, thanks, Russell. Unprecedented is certainly the way to describe it. But, all things considered, we really have seen prices hold in there for calves here this year. We're certainly in that slow spot right now, and especially seeing a bit of pressure, due to those drier conditions, forcing some weaning on, some calves that may otherwise be held on a little bit longer, and a few less places to go. But calf prices are actually above year-ago levels and pretty well on par with what we saw, towards the lower end of those summer videos. So, all things considered, COVID considered, not too bad. And we do anticipate that as we get past this seasonal slow spot, we should see where prices firm up into the end of the year.
Well, to say it's been a wild year with the weather and the markets here in 2020 is a bit of an understatement. What's your advice, though, to cow-calf producers who are trying to make management decisions for 2021 now?
Yeah, well, first of all, in this industry, you can obviously only do as much as Mother Nature will allow. But, we do still think that there's, some liquidation going on across the cow-calf sector. So, if feed and weather and feed conditions allow for a certain producer, it might be a time to consider zigging while everyone else is zagging, in terms of expanding or at least maintaining your operation size. Because as we look towards tighter cattle supplies on down the road, that should mean for better prices as well over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well said. Patrick, in the midst of all the issues we've seen this year, what's happening with consumer demand for U.S. beef here and around the world?
Yeah, consumer demand, especially here domestically, has been surprisingly resilient, and we've been very pleasantly surprised how that's held in there. Retail has obviously had to do the bulk of the legwork, but and we saw retail prices shoot to record levels due to the COVID panic buying and tighter supplies that we saw. But even so, now that we've gotten supplies back to more normal levels, the consumer is still supporting prices at pretty normal levels, which is pretty impressive, all things considered. And another thing to think about is the consumer still not going out to eat at restaurants as much as normal, and so if the food budget's the same, that's still some extra money that can be allocated, especially to high quality products like beef, as they head into the grocery store. And in terms of international demand, that's continued to hold in there pretty well as well.
Well, indeed, that is some very good news. Now, with that said, is it too early to get a sense of the supply and demand trends for 2021 that may shape our cattle markets?
Yeah, as we look on down the road into 2021, I think generally optimistic is kind of the outlook there. As we get into the first quarter of the year, first several months, we'll still have some supply to work through in terms of cattle that didn't make it into feed yards earlier this spring and early summer. But as we transition into the middle towards the end of 2021, I'd say we're generally pretty optimistic there as well. The calf crop in last year was down about 250,000 head. And the USDA is estimating that this year's calf crop will be down about that much as well. So as we look towards tighter supplies, again, that should mean higher prices. And that's something that we should have recognized this year in terms of some higher prices from that smaller calf crop. But obviously COVID got in the way. So that should be pretty optimistic as we look towards next year.
All right, thanks a lot, Patrick, for being with us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. And we'll be keeping our fingers crossed that your market projections come true. For more than 5 decades now, CattleFax has been providing producers with all of the information they need to make profitable decisions. You can find out more about all they have to offer by visiting their website at cattlefax.com.
Valuable news.
Thanks, Russell. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take a closer look back at last year's national winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award and tell you about a great show we're bringing you in just a couple of weeks. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Because performance isn't optional.
If you'd like to know more about NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen and have an opportunity to support our effort to create valuable news, information, and education just for cattle producers, then check out our website, cattlementocattlemen.org.
What does it mean to be dependable? It means you do what you say you'll do time and time again. Because performance isn't optional. And your task is essential. For over 95 years, we have proven ourselves to be the most dependable choice. That's why the cattlemen of this great nation trust Ritchie to provide fresh water on demand. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
On Blackbeard's Ranch, Brian Jones and his cowboy crew are working to beat the heat of the day.
Earlier in the show, we told you how NCBA and the Public Lands Council are coming together for a historic conservation partnership with sporting groups. That memorandum of understanding was signed at Blackbeard's Ranch, the 2019 national winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's head to Florida for a closer look at that outstanding operation.
Environment for generations.
On Blackbeard's Ranch, Brian Jones and his cowboy crew are working to beat the heat of the day by moving cows and calves just after sunrise. The 4,500-acre ranch was purchased by Galinsky Enterprises in 2014 and is managed by Florida cattleman Jim Strickland.
My family has been in Florida for 6 generations. We've always been in the cattle business. The cattle here on the ranch consist of cattle that we have kept for generations, that we've adapted to this environment for generations. And the cattle herds, we have a Brangus cattle herd, we have a Beefmaster cattle herd, and then we have a crossbred cattle herd that are mixtures of Brangus, Beefmaster, and Brayford.
Today in Southwest Florida, houses are going in where cows were once grazing. That makes Blackbeard's Ranch highly valuable as open space.
We are right outside of the second fastest growing planned residential development in the United States. So we have a unique opportunity to tell people about ranch lands, about water, about what us ranchers do for Florida.
We're under a lot of pressure around the state for people to develop, and Jim just caught on fire, if you will, in the last 5 to 6 years promoting conservation, and actually has formed a group of ranchers called the Florida Conservation Group, and they're all like-minded ranchers who are very interested in preserving as much country as possible, but keeping it in private hands.
The wetlands of Blackbeard's Ranch play a critical role in protecting water quality downstream. That's one reason why Jim worked with NRCS to put 1/3 of the ranch into a permanent conservation easement.
That's 1,500 acres where Blackbeard sold the development rights. So that area can never be developed. It can't be converted into something more intensive, and that those wetlands will be restored and that native hydrological regime will be restored.
All we're doing is giving up the right to build a house. We're still grazing cattle on it. It's going to be a little wetter than it was, but it fit for us. That easement program fit for us.
Over the past 4 years, the ranch team has worked to thin dense trees and remove invasive plants, using herbicide treatments and prescribed burns to help restore native habitat.
So our burning plan is we burn 50, 60, 100 acres at a time in a mosaic situation. We're trying to help the cattle, we're trying to help the land, but we're also trying to help our wildlife. So our burns are going to look a little different than others, but it's so important to the cattlemen of Florida to have that ability to burn our ranch lands.
So I think what he has done has been a tremendous service to conservation. You know, if we want to protect, Florida's water and wildlife, we have to have a profitable cattle industry here, because that's where the wildlife are.
To implement a rotational grazing plan, new fencing has been added, and the ranch team has installed water troughs driven by wind and solar power.
There's been time that on this ranch alone we have 31 ponds, all but 2 were dry. We now have 5 windmills, and we've put in our first solar wells. So we are continuing to do cost shares to, one, give those cattle some clean, good water, and we can start moving those cattle around, that I don't have to depend on every single pond.
Jim has also diversified, producing a variety of food products, including Blackbeard's Ranch beef, honey, and pork from Mangalitsa hogs raised on ranch pastures. It's all aimed at maximizing income opportunities and getting the story of agriculture and conservation to the public.
And one of the ways to get our word out initially was food. So if you see a Blackbeard product out there, that person or company is wholeheartedly agreeing to tell the story of ranchers in Florida, not just us, but ranchers across Florida doing the same thing we're doing.
Perhaps most impressive is the effort Jim and his team put into setting up the ranch as a place to regularly host visitors of all ages.
He will defend our industry. He will stand up for it, but he swung the gates open and is passionate about sharing the conservation methods of a Florida ranch with the public.
We host 3 to 5 busloads of people at a time that come out here, and I get the opportunity to tell them what a landscape level conservation on a Florida ranch looks like, feels like, and what it accomplishes.
We really want to tell the story here and show that cattle ranching is critical if we want to protect our native wildlife populations, if we want to protect clean water downstream, because the alternative is development.
Today, Blackbeard's Ranch is a place where cattle are thriving, the land is improving, and critical wildlife habitat is being protected. Jim came up with the name Blackbeard's Ranch in recognition of the pirate history in this area of Florida. But his vision for this land goes far beyond what any pirate could dream.
A lot of people say, well, Jim, are you looking for the silver and the doubloons and the jewels and the sapphires and the rubies that Blackbeard or one of those pirates buried? I said I would love to find it, but the real treasure is the land itself. So we're looking forward to the future here. There's a lot of variables out there. Are we still improving? Every day.
good friend, Baxter. We've got a special episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen coming your way on Tuesday, October 20th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's when we'll announce the 2020 Regional Environmental Stewardship Award winners. It's a chance to honor 7 operations that go above and beyond with their stewardship and conservation efforts. You and your family will enjoy hearing these stories of these unique regional winners. And you may even gain tips and tricks that you can apply on your own operation. So join us on October 20th. When we return, it's time for a visit with our good friend, Baxter Black. Stay with us.
Feedstock producer. Our family has been in.
Grass is the center of our universe. We've got to have a grass program that we can count on and plan on. That's what we need to sustain us, to keep us growing, to keep us prospering.
Isn't always over the next rise, and you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family, and we know you do.
At Leachman Cattle, we're committed to building more profitable cattle. As a third-generation seed stock producer, our family has been in this business for over 80 years. Today, we have the best technology ever to build more profitable cattle. Our dollar profit index is a leader in the industry to help you balance all the traits that drive your bottom line. Give us a call or go to www.leachman to learn more.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
Jim told me a story of his youth when he was 12. He had 2 brothers and their dad sent him out a horseback to bring in Bully Boy, one of the herd sires, to the home corrals. Instructions were to stand off by the water trap till Bully Boy came in and then make sure they closed the trap before the other bulls came in to avoid a bullfight. The boys had been told many, many times to never, never, never get around bulls that were fighting. It was a rule of the range. Well, our teenage trio sat there at the trap for an hour before they saw Bully Boy coming in with a handful of cows. Boys could have ridden up and shut the gate real easy, but coming out of the brush, they saw another bull, a big black one, trudging up the trail to the trap. "Hold him back," said the oldest son. "Oh, come on. Wouldn't you guys like to see a bullfight?" said Jim. Well, they let him, and the 2 bulls went right for each other. And when the boys decided they'd had enough entertainment, Jim whooped his old horse Tony and rode right between the bulls, screeching and a-hollering. Well, Blackie went one way, Bully Boy went the other. And then Bully Boy stopped and turned around and charged the horse. Bully Boy hit him in the shoulder. It knocked Jim off the right side and spooked Tony, who let out a bucking. From Jim's point of view, caught in the stirrup, he could see underneath the horse's belly at the bucking, kicking, galloping horse's hooves and the big bull hooking at the horse with his horns. Then one solid blow caused him to slip the stirrup. It launched him out behind like someone throwing a gunny sack full of wild turkeys off the back of a runaway bass boat. Well, in the aftermath, the boys were worried what story they could tell their dad until they looked up there on the ridge, and there he was. He'd seen the whole thing. Well, Jim remembered his dad riding up to him, putting his arm around his shoulder and saying, "Son, if this didn't teach you something, there's nothing I can say." This is Baxter Black to all those sons and dads from out there.
At Case IH, we believe it's our job to provide you with solutions. That's why our Farmall and Maxim tractors, as well as our tools and attachments, are designed with you in mind. From mowing to baling to loading and more, we're here to help turn your to-dos into to-dones. At Case IH, we'll keep your days running smoothly with equipment that's durable, versatile, and highly efficient. No wonder farmers are more loyal to Case IH than any other brand. Visit your local dealer or go to caseih.com/livestock for more. Do you have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team to learn more. Do you have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team to learn more.
And with me now is Jojo Corrales with Heart Brand Beef. Jojo, thanks for giving us a few minutes today.
Absolutely, pleasure to be here.
Let's talk about the beef business for a minute. I'm interested, what are some of the key trends that are shaping our industry as you look out over the next 10 or so years?
Yeah, I think the future is bright for the beef industry, and we're really excited kind of the trends that we've seen. So as you look over the past 10, 20 years, and you look at where the customer is leading us, I really feel our beef customer is asking for more information. They're becoming more educated. They want to know where their beef came from, how it was raised, what region it came from. And in our specific experience, they want to know what breed it is. Yeah. So I think as that customer goes to this grocery store and to the restaurants, they want to have choices more than anything. And I think we realize as beef producers, we have the best animal protein there is, and we're proud of that. But if our customers would tell us where our opportunity is, it's making beef more consistently better. So we're in the marbling breed, and we want to give that good, wholesome flavor and tenderness and juiciness to it, but we have to do it consistently, I think, to have future. And I think in the next 10 years, I think the branded beef program is not going away. I think the customers are going to want more options, and I think that'll have a long stay here.
Clearly there's a huge proliferation of branded beef programs, and Heart Brand is one of them. I'm curious, as you survey the landscape of branded beef programs, particularly highly marbled branded beef, what do you see out there?
Well, I think the Akushi genetics have been used many different ways within branded programs. So Heart Brand, we use the Akushi exclusively in our program. They must be DNA verified through the breed association. In our program, we allow 50% and above to come into our Beef Alliance. We're a natural fed program, no implant ever, fed naturally, and that's something that gives us a product that's very marketable. Sure. So we have that percent prime and choice that we feel fits our clientele, and we've had a good success being able to sell it.
Yeah, and as you think about the Akushi cattle specifically, were you telling me that you've collected 50,000 carcass data points on these cattle?
Yeah, that's extremely exciting.
That's
so I mean,
amazing.
This is a day of data. So I feel that when you look at the Akushi Association and what Heart Brand's records have shown within the cattle we've harvested, over the last 50,000 head of cattle, we've had less than 3% select and no roll. Wow. And those are a lot of half-blood cattle. Right. So these are USDA graded, and we've averaged 47% prime, and with only 3% being non-compliant for our beef. And that's what it's all about, is making our customer a better product, and we know that higher marbled beef gives them a better eating experience.
No doubt marbling and quality is important, but I know the folks I talk to, they don't want to sacrifice gain and weight. And so I'm curious, as you've selected more for gain and some feed efficiency, what have you seen happen from a quality grading perspective?
Yeah, so when I was introduced to the Akushi cattle over 15 years ago, when I first saw them, I thought they had a niche that was so unique to be able to apply marbling, yet have a functional body type. Okay. So I think when we first started in 2009 and our cattle team being able to look at trying to have a bull that a commercial buyer would be accepting of. I agree with you, marbling's important, carcass and tenderness are important, but if you can't get their efficiency, you really haven't gained any ground. So as we've increased gain, muscle, body type, and especially maintaining those traits like fertility and feet and legs, our marbling has not taken a step back.
Really?
That's something that we've really had to keep an eye on in the ownership of Heart Brand, make sure that we do not give up the trait that brought us to the table. In fact, in 2018, our percent prime has actually been about 8-10% higher than our last 50,000 head killed.
That's an incredible testimony. So I'm curious, you mentioned commercial cattlemen. When commercial cattlemen come to buy a bull, what are they looking for?
Yeah, so we sell our bulls for commercial prices. $5,000 to $10,000 is where most of our bulls are sold, and they're wanting a bull to go out usually on their own commercial cattle that are adapted to their environment.
Sure.
We don't tell them what season they need to calve in, exact brand of vaccine. Usually these are the guys, Kevin, that are already progressive. They're already doing all these things that are making better animals, and we're just introducing a higher marbled breed on top of that. And what they're looking for is to not give up weaning weight, and they're wanting to be able to market those calves easier. So the Heart Brand buyback program has allowed them to increase their amount of income with maintaining everything the same except changing the bull they use. So on finished fed cattle, we offer 20 to 25 cents over the live market for Akushi half-blood natural fed cattle. And on weaned calves, that premium will usually range between $100 to $150 is what they should expect. So we'd love to have those Akushi calves back.
Sure.
I mean, that's what we're in the business of doing, is selling beef, but it's strictly their option. It's not mandatory to sell back, and if they have a better outlet for them, they're more than welcome to it.
That's incredible. And in these kind of economic times that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years, every $100, $150 really counts in the cattle business.
Without a doubt.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing this perspective with us, JoJo.
Absolutely, enjoyed it.
You bet.
Yes, sir.
And if you'd like to learn more, please go to heartbrandbeef.com. This edition, we're wrapping up this week's show with some great shots submitted by our viewers of their daily life on the farm and ranch. Let's take a look. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.